Welcome to another episode of the Opportunity Podcast. I'm your host, Greg Elfring, head of marketing over here at Empire Flippers. And today I am interviewing John Tilley, the owner of ZonGuru, a software platform and doing a whole lot more in the Amazon FBA space to help people find actual discovery opportunities using their whole AI pivot. So I actually had John on this podcast. I think it was like 6 months ago, but you know how AI is. It is moving quick, quick, quick. And back then, the whole talk of the town was Rufus. Well, Amazon is now sunset Rufus, and now they are focusing all in, doubling down on Alexa shopping, which is a huge opportunity for my Amazon FBA seller friends out there. Like if you do the stuff that John is talking about, you could see a lift in as little as 24 hours in your sales, which is dramatically fast in the world of marketing. And if you are an FBA agency owner, I highly recommend you listening to this too, because a lot of agency owners are actually using John's products and services to help them also see some pretty big revenue lift. So we talk a bit about everything, the state of FBA, a little bit at the end. We talk a little bit about agency life, problems he's seeing that his customers have there. And it's all around just a really good, solid episode for my Amazon friends. So with that said, I'll get off my soapbox and I will see you on the other side. All right, I have John Tilley with me here, the founder of ZonGuru. Welcome back to episode number 2, my friend. I had a blast on our first episode, then the webinar we did together with our audiences. But for anyone who doesn't know you and the legend that is ZonGuru in the industry, why don't you give us a little bit of a background?
What's up, Greg? Always good to be here. And yeah, dude, I look forward to these conversations because you roll with those great questions. Yeah, so ZonGuru, we've been around for a little over 8 years now. We're focused as operational tools for brands and agencies that manage or sell products on Amazon. We have many tools, but our real core focus over the years has been to reverse engineer Amazon's algorithm to help brands get more rank and discoverability. And clearly, we call it Amazon's AI moment has happened. There's been some significant changes to the algorithm over the last few months around and a more intelligent algorithm called Cosmo and the advent of conversational search with Alexa for shopping. So that whole algorithm world has changed. And so, really ensuring that we can help brands to ensure they're discovered across all the ways that brands can now be found on Amazon and products. That's really our focus around a product called Helix that helps with essentially, GEO for Amazon and ensuring that your content is fully optimized for discoverability across Alexa for shopping, as well as obviously your typical keyword intent-based searches and everything else. So we'll talk a lot more about that, but it's been a wild space of late, and Amazon has made some significant changes in raising their hand and showing where they're going with competing in this new conversational search AI world.
Dude, yeah, everything is. I mean, we were just talking offline about my new cold email stuff. Like, there's never enough time to keep up with any of this, and like, even in just like one business model, much less like tons of different models. I believe last time you were on, the big focus on Amazon then was Rufus, which I guess they've now sunset, and they're going all in on Alexa. We were talking a bit about that offline, but give me the lowdown of why is Amazon doubling down into Alexa? What signals is this giving us? How should an FBA entrepreneur be paying attention to this pivot?
Yeah, it's since we last talked, it was kind of up in the air, like, hey, what's happening with ChatGPT, what's happening with Gemini, this whole world of, conversational research, especially around e-commerce and finding products and what are customers doing and how does Amazon want to play in this world? Do they want to partner? Do they want to own this space themselves? What's the gig here? And, so far the signs from Amazon has been absolutely to raise their hand and say, hey, we are not willing to lose market share to ChatGPT or anyone else around e-commerce shopping and researching. We want to simply own that space. And if you look at Amazon traditionally, it's been very intent based. You go there, you know what you want, you type in a keyword, you find and you buy. And this conversational world has now evolved where you can use the conversation if you know exactly what you want, or if you want to research, you can absolutely use that. And Amazon has said we don't want to lose market share, and so they launched with Rufus. But that was kind of the initial play. And then on May 27th, they killed Rufus really and launched Alexa for shopping.
I love you saying killed because it's named after Jeff Bezos' dog. He's like the old yeller of Amazon.
Yeah.
Sorry, keep going.
Oh, no, totally. And I mean, I guess the real answer is Rufus is still alive in the back end,
In our
in terms of,
hearts, in our
yeah,
hearts.
exactly. And the front end is now Alexa for shopping, right? So they went with the bigger brand name, which they probably should have done from the beginning. But it wasn't just a brand name play. There was a data play as well, for sure. And part of where Amazon was missing out to, ChatGPT and everything is around access to data where there's normal day-to-day conversation happening. Because if you get that data, you can profile your audience that much better and be able to have better conversation with them. And so Alexa for shopping was also a play at getting at some of that data where it's like, hey, outside of just shopping, I now have more insight into the profile of these customers, right? So they did that. And then the other piece they launched was called About You, which is really, ensuring there's functionality around your likes and your profile on Amazon. So now within Amazon, you have the ability to select different profiles like business, personal, etc. And they're really trying to ensure that they have that intelligence around your profile to serve you content in a more efficient way. So there's a big evolution that's happened on that side as well. But that was like the major play on May 27th. Amazon's just saying like, hey, we're going to make sure that we're the best place for e-commerce shopping and for research for finding products. And in order to do that, we have to make sure that we have a high quality experience that is better than anything that ChatGPT or Gemini or anything can offer. And that's our world, and we're going to own that. And so far, with the changes they made to the algorithm and the intelligence of AI and everything they've built in around Cosmo, which is the replacement for the old archaic algorithm they had called A9, I would say hands down, the experience is up there. Like I definitely, as a consumer, use Alexa for shopping whenever I'm looking to research products because it's actually very good in that world. So, that's where they've gone now. And they're seeing, the typical things from AI now. They're seeing higher cart values. They're seeing higher conversion rates because 80% of the decision is made before they get to the product level page, right? So they're seeing a better conversion rate because they've had the conversation with Alexa. They just released some stats around Prime Day, and overall, the sessions are down, but conversion rate is up, which is exactly what we're starting to see on Google, right? With AI summaries up top, right? You're not getting to the actual page. You're making the decision before you go into the page. But when you get to the page, you're highly qualified. And so you're converting high. So all the signals are there that they absolutely are leaning into the conversational side. And so you have this new shelf called, the recommendation. And how do you make sure that you appear for that?
I think you're absolutely right that they probably should have went with Alexa first. So they might have been like testing it, didn't want to mess with Alexa. But I know no one I personally knew at least was using Rufus back. Like I also live outside of America, so that's troublesome for me to know. But I do know like my sister's kids, they talk to Alexa all the time. So them going into that pivot, I think makes a ton of sense and way more brand power than Rufus. Sorry, Rufus. But yeah, so that makes all a bunch of sense to me. And my background in SEO and what I've seen with other FBA sellers, like the game used to be optimizing for the keyword. And as we go into more conversational stuff, that feels kind of dead to me. I don't know if it's completely dead, that might be too harsh, but like what are your thoughts there? Like if I'm an FBA seller, should I be optimizing for the keyword or should I be now optimizing for Alexa in this new conversational world? Or is it both? Like tell me which way you would direct someone.
Yeah, the short answer is it's still both, right? I mean, Amazon is still a keyword intent based search platform, right? So you type in your keyword, you get a bunch of search results, people look through that, and then they pick whatever they want and they go to the product level page and they check out. That hasn't gone away and it's not going to go away anytime soon. But the signals that we're getting from Amazon is that the agentic conversational experience is producing better results, right? And so it's a slow mover in terms of how they test and making sure that when they test that they're getting better results and better, high monetary values for Amazon first and foremost, right? So they have to balance all of that. And so, if there's one thing to pick out, like the kind of testing that Amazon is doing right now, I literally did this the other day on my mobile phone. I typed in swing ball set because, I wanted that for my kids. It's kind of a tennis ball on the end of it helps them with their racket coordination, right? So they're 4 and 5 years old. And instead of it returning the typical search results page, where it shows all the results, I look at the images and I pick out one I want with the price and then I go, it literally loaded Alexa directly on the screen. So it basically came back and said, hey, great choice, John. You're looking at a swing ball set based on your shopping history. What about a swing ball with a pickleball on the end instead of a tennis ball? What do you think of this? So it was literally, there's two things happening there. One, it didn't load the search results page. It loaded the conversation directly. And then secondly, it looked at my past history and saw that I'd bought a pickleball set a year ago and thought, hey, I've got this, obviously more aligned with pickleball. So why don't you take this as an option? And therefore, I had a conversation with it. It showed 3 or 4 recommendations. I then made a decision together with Alexa, and then I clicked on it and purchased, right? So all of that was made before I even saw the search results page. And when I got to the product level page, I was already, 80% of the way there. I just looked at some visuals, the last price, and converted, right? So there can certainly be mistakes with that as well. Like maybe I don't want to look at my past history. So like this is where Amazon has to really test and get that whole flow right, because it can make my experience better because I don't have to look at a whole bunch of different results before I convert. And I can ask it, like, tell me the best things that I need to look at on a swing ball, and it will tell me, and I can, use that to then get the recommendation. Or it could be annoying, right? So like this is where the balance has to come in, and Amazon has to get it. But it's absolutely evolving the space. And to your point, keywords is going to get you a little bit of the way. Now with the recommendation, it's about how do you become the answer to the questions, right? And there's a reverse engineering around that that's critical. And that's where the biggest opportunity is lying right now with brands.
Well, I want to get into that. That's basically going to be my next question. How do we do this? But before we do that, I'm curious on your thoughts since you're in the space. Like, I always look at it through the lens of SEO because that was kind of like my skill before AI came in with a wrecking ball on that. Like, the way I view it is like we get a ton of traffic from LLMs now. Our SEO traffic has dipped quite considerably, but it's like holding steady. And I kind of look like almost like we didn't lose traffic because of the replacement of the LLM traffic, but I also don't feel like we're net gaining any traffic either. So in terms of those two sources, so in your view, is it kind of the same happening with Amazon? Is like these two sources are kind of like cannibalizing each other, but is the LLM source of traffic also higher converting than when it was just pure keyword content based? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
You're exactly right. It's similar to what we're seeing around GEO, SEO, LLM traffic, right? You're getting one source of traffic that is actually starting to dip around sessions because, frankly, we're not even necessarily seeing the search results page, right? And that's
Yeah.
thinking. But on the other side, you're getting more conversational search sessions up, and those are higher converting. So, in some cases, we're seeing, it depends on the niche on Amazon, but some sellers we're looking at, their overall sessions are going down, but their conversions are going up and their revenue is going up, right? And then on the other cases, some of their sessions are actually going up and their conversion rate is going up because they're now accessing more of the conversational search, right? Because it's not a small piece of the puzzle, and it's certainly growing. I think there's 370 million customers that are now using Alexa for shopping. The latest projection, I think, was like 12 billion in additional revenue from Alexa for shopping and conversational search. So there's this whole new shelf of recommendation. And frankly, it's a whole new way of searching for products on Amazon because you're researching and asking questions. You're not just like, hey, I want to buy something, right? So it's opening up, the use cases of how people can find your product. And if you have that conversation, some of the questions are like, hey, I don't know anything about this category. Give me some ideas. And then once you have the ideas from Alexa, then it's like, okay, well, what should be my criteria around decision making? And it will have that conversation with you. And then you'll be like, okay, great. Great. You told me these 10 things. I actually want these 3 things. So give me a product that matches these 3 things. And then it gives it to you. And then you're like, okay, I'm 80% of the way there. I can convert, right?
Yeah, it is very interesting because it's selling you in the conversation, whereas in the past maybe you needed a sales letter, like or the better copyright on the listing page, but it's taking you through that entire customer journey, maybe even closer. I mean, I guess it would be closer because the conversion rates tend to be higher than the old system. So that is super interesting, and also I think a lot of people have anxiety with this because it's like I don't control my own selling message anymore. It's the conversational AI that's really controlling it, right? So I guess that leads me into my big question here. Like, if you have 30 days as a FBA seller to go all in on this and do everything you can to maximize your AI presence in Alexa, the conversational marketing, like, what are you looking at? What's your checklist of to do?
Yeah, I think the answer is pretty short, but I think what leads into that is exactly what you said, which is I always say Amazon's best salesperson is Alexa for shopping now, right? Because it's having the conversation and it has the control of what it recommends, right? And the better they understand you as a customer and your profile and your kind of questions, the better they can service and the better they understand the products and the signals they're getting from the products, the better they can connect those two and make the sale. And not only make the sale, but then say, hey, great, well, you liked a pickleball set. Are you interested in other outdoor games for your 4 and 5-year-olds, right? And I say yes. And then like, hey, what do you think of these? And then my average cart value is higher, right? So, there's a critical connection there, not only in terms of like signaling, hey, when is my product best for customers, but what does my product also sell well with, right? And if Alexa can make those connections, you get served up even when a person is not necessarily looking for your product organically, right? So
just real quick on that, John. So, and you might have been about to say this. Sorry if I'm interrupting you, but if I'm selling a pickleball item, right, and let's say I also sell sports shoes, like sports sneakers, like would the conversational AI tell you like, oh, hey, John, do you need new sneakers? And if you say yes, would they be more likely to share that same brand, like the pickleball seller and their sneakers? Or is that like we're looking at all the other sneakers combined here versus upselling for that same brand?
So the answer is it's going to upsell for what products are signaled to the AI as being a best complementary product to the one that was purchased.
Okay.
And the answer is absolutely yes. Like Amazon is testing that right now, and I see it all the time. It'll have the conversation recommendation. And then, once you like, hey, I'm adding to cart, it'll say, great, add it to cart. Hey, by the way, are you also looking for, additional car games for your 4 and 5-year-old because you just bought a car seat or whatever, right? And so there's a specific technical mapping on the Cosmo side, and the one in this use case is actually sold with, right? So there's a complementary aspect, and if you can make sure that you're telling it like, hey, I sell espresso mugs which go well with espresso machines that are espresso beans, if it's making that connection, it then has the ability to have a strong signal from you and serve you as that complementary product, right? And actually that specific one is probably one of the nodes that we see missing the most today. Like when we actually analyze the listings in our scoring, that served with is missing the most, and that's the big opportunity just on that one, right? Yeah.
So that's like something that a lot of FBA people probably don't have at all. I didn't realize that you have to do a specific thing with a node. So before we go in deeper into signals, maybe let's just talk about nodes. Like, what are the nodes for the conversational AI? And what is a node, basically?
It's kind of getting to this area of your question, which is like, what is the most important thing for sellers to do right now? There's really two measurement systems right now there's four, but let's just talk about the ones we can really control. There's one, which is the product knowledge graph mapping for Cosmo, which is really like a technical knowledge graph that it looks at around your content and customer behavior to be able to answer questions like, what is your product used for? When is it used by? Who uses your product? That's a really important one, like segmentation. Like, because some of these conversations can get really specific and long tail, the more you can make sure that it has a good understanding of the different avatars that use your product in detail, the better it has of actually servicing your product to that audience, right? So, when should it be used? What should it be used with? What's a good complementary way of using it? What situations should it be used in? So it's all these kind of questions from a technical knowledge graph that Amazon actually gave us a white paper on that says, hey, here's the technical knowledge graph. And if you can answer questions in this way with your content and everything you have, our AI is intelligent enough to connect the dots and to serve your product for these specific questions. And there's keyword mapping that goes into that as well, right? So there's this Cosmo semantic technical mapping knowledge graph that has to happen. That's on one side. And then on the other side is the buyer Q&A side, which is, okay, with your content, how do we make sure, and your attributes, right? How do we make sure that all the different common questions that are asked around your category and this specific type of product, how do you make sure that you're giving the right answers so that you become the answer to the question, right? And so everything from how long is my swing ball set to what type of ball is it, a pickleball versus a tennis ball? Is this safe for my 4-year-olds or 5-year-olds to use? And all those kind of questions, you have to become the answer. And we divide those into two groups. One is the research category questions. So like, what are good products for my kid to use outdoor that will help them with their tennis skill, right? So like they don't even know about the product, but they're trying to research and understand the category, through to the very specific buyer decision-making questions at a common level, which is also tied to attributes, which is like, hey, I want a swing ball with a pickleball, or I want one with a tennis ball, or, I want plastic bats or wooden bats or whatever it is, right? So, we've got to be able to really reverse engineer and understand the whole space, look at reviews, look at all these kind of things, and reverse engineer the most common questions, and then make sure our content answers that so that we're the signal to Alexa for shopping your service. So those are the two big technical pieces that you need to be mapped for. And maybe I'll just stop there in case you have a comment, but otherwise I'll talk about which one you need to optimize.
They're kind of blending in my mind, and maybe that is the way you should look at it. But like node and signal, are those like interchangeable, or are those two very distinct parts of how Amazon's looking at your products?
They're the same, right?
Okay.
It's the content is the noding and like the technical structure of it. But if you do that in the right way, you're then sending a strong enough signal to the AI to then become the connection of the dots, right?
So it is like one of the big processes that an FBA seller needs to be doing is like asking, and maybe you do this in the back office with Amazon or with another AI, like, hey, give me every single question someone might be asking, or looking on, Quora or whatever, and putting that up on your listing page or A plus content or all that kind of good stuff. Is that like one of the actions that are they're actually doing to implement a tactic here?
That's right. And so that's kind of like part of our secret sauce is like, and I always say this, like, you're not going to win in your content if you just use Claude or ChatGPT and say, hey, write me a listing
Sure.
for Amazon, because there's this deep inherent knowledge of primary data, first party data that you have to have access to from Amazon, reviews, competitor listings, brand analytics data, product opportunity. There's all these technical kind of data that you have to access from APIs to try and understand the space, right? And then to reverse engineer the most common questions that need to be answered in the content. And so, if you do that, what we find based on testing, if you get to 80% of like the most common questions across those two groups, research and buyer decision making criteria, you will basically be served for most of the common questions that come up around conversations with Alexa for shopping, right? So that is one of the biggest things. And to kind of get to the answer right now, we have a scoring around listings that's free. It's called the Cosmo readiness report,
Yeah.
but it scores on those two factors. One is the technical mapping, and one is the Alexa for shopping by Q&A. And we give it a score out of 100. And I think we've done well over 6,000 of those reports so far in the last 3 quarters.
You probably have updated it, but I imagine this is the same report I saw in the webinar I was with you on, where you did one live, right? Is that the same thing, or is that a different?
It might be, it's evolved a little bit further from there, as the
Right.
space.
Rufus is not a thing anymore. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, so it's evolved a little bit more, but there's a scoring. And on the Cosmo side, we typically see a score. I think the average right now is 69 out of 100, right? I would say 75 and up is good, right? So there's still opportunity there. But the reason that it's on average they score pretty well is because a lot of the keyword optimization that was previously done works, right? And it helps with the semantic mapping that needs to happen. And just because you write content as you write content, it works. But on the buyer Q&A side, the typical score I think is 49 or it's 51, somewhere around there right now out of 100, right? That is the biggest opportunity gap that's missing right now. That frankly is the one around the recommendation shelf, right? So you have the keyword intent based shelf, you have the PPC that you pay for, but this recommendation shelf around the conversations, that's the one that's scoring lowest right now, and where people really need to make sure that they optimize. So that's just the technical side of it. Like, hey, on an audit basis, you need to make sure that you're technically writing content in a way that covers you technically. And on the other side, the trick then becomes, not only do I need to technically map my content and images so that it sends a stronger signal, but now how do I write my content in a way that obviously is AI readable with all of this, but then also works for the customer and helps with human conversion, right?
Yeah.
And the good news on that side is that actually, because of the evolution of the algorithm, you can actually write listings how you should be writing them, which is not stuffing them full of keywords, not making like
Extra
nonsensical listings.
large red chalkboard,
Yeah,
super cheap, under $50. That one SEO.
exactly. Exactly. Now you can write listings and, that's benefit orientated, USP, unique selling proposition orientated, helping you with positioning, talking about the best things about your product, just using the normal natural flow of wording and keywords, because the algorithm is intelligent enough now to say, hey, these are your most important keywords. Here's some broad match, but now we're driven to match you semantically to every single keyword that's out in the universe, because frankly, if you're a great product and you recommend it, you're going to bring us more sales and Amazon's going to make more money, right? So that's the beautiful part of the world, is that like you can write listings and let them breathe a little bit more in that. But as long as you have the technical mapping on the back end, then you're good.
I think that's all fascinating. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, there's a lot of like good SEO also helps you get an LLM. So I'm not surprised that like good like keyword optimization on
Yeah.
Amazon is also helping there. But it is nice to see the keyword stuffing titles go away because they're a real eyesore. In terms of what people are doing, so you said the average score is about 69 with your AI readiness report. And by the way, anyone listening will be linking that in the show notes. So they're pretty close to a decent rating, according to you, 75. What's the big mistake people tend to be making that could inch that score into a passing grade?
Yeah, so it's 69. That's on the technical mapping Cosmo side, but it's 4951
Oh,
on the
okay. So it's
MA side, right?
doing much
And
worse.
that's the biggest the
Well,
biggest
my question
opportunity.
remains the same. What are people messing up that they
Yeah.
maybe not even thinking about?
Once you optimize on both sides, you're kind of coming in, at around that like 85, 90 out of 100, right? Is where
Yeah.
you need to get to. And I would say the biggest mistake that people are making is one, not taking action and making the changes. Amazon's actually, side note, but they're kind of forcing people to take action with their titles because they've asked them to restructure how they do their titles. And they gave a deadline, which is kind of coming up. People are doing their title. But I think the biggest mistake is kind of what I said is like people are saying, hey, well, let me just rewrite the content and I'm going to use ChatGPT and use it or Claude. And they've got this kind of surface level thing that they think is right because half of it is hallucinated, right? Versus, taking the opportunity to say, hey, like let's actually structure, we've coined a phrase, structured listing engineering, which is, this is what it is now. It's structured listing engineering. How do we use AI in the best way possible, plus all of our data sources to solve for two things. One being the technical mapping for AI discoverability and readability. And then number two, using AI to help you with your positioning of your product so that you connect emotionally with the customer and you improve your conversion, right? So we're in this beautiful world where if you're using AI in the right way, you can improve both of those: human connection and conversion, and then obviously AI readability, based on that first party data structure that we're getting from Amazon. So I think that's the biggest mistake that we're seeing is that like either people are not taking action, and we see that all day, every day, like they literally haven't updated their listing, or they think they heard some dude say Claude can do whatever they need to do, and they're just using that and they believe it, and they
Claude
go
has
and then
fired
store it
my
on us.
copywriting team, my marketing team, my engineering team, and myself. Yeah, I see the hype. It's so fascinating, dude. I think you'd probably end up agreeing with me because you brought up ChatGPT like this twice. But AI is like one of the most overhyped and underhyped tools in my entire career. Like people were saying like, oh, it replaces everything, but like, yeah, but it replaces them with kind of a shitty team. But if you do it right, where you actually have like human oversight and your own like first party knowledge, all that kind of stuff, like then it becomes like really, really good again, right? But it is fascinating to watch like my friends who are doing YouTube channels with AI and my friends who are actually using AI with like real businesses. It's fascinating to watch. But what do you think is the future here for FBA sellers? Like, is this I assume you think this is a massive opportunity because I imagine a lot of people, if they're scoring on average like 50 out of 100, then this should be a massive opportunity for even new sellers to get a pretty massive leg up. Like, is that true or is that less there because there's too much need for like reviews and sales velocity? Or can that new seller really take advantage of this?
I think the opportunity is massive, right? And that's not discounting that all of those health aspects of your listing are still important, which are sales velocity, reviews, all of those things are needed. But ultimately, if you really think about it, there's 370 million customers that might be coming in a different buy behavior method than they used to come into Amazon. And if you're not optimizing for the recommendation, you're missing out on that traffic because you're not getting recommended. And frankly, the window is narrower because in the recommendation from Alexa, you're getting possibly 3 recommendations after a conversation. You're not seeing 26 listings on page 1 and maybe some people are clicking to page 2. Like that day is gone if someone is in a conversation with Alexa. And so if you're not sending the right signals, you're going to miss out. But if you get the recommendation, your conversion rate is much higher and you get the sale, right? So we see a lot of big sellers where sales can be up and down because Alexa is literally just testing different ways of surfacing products and that impacts them. So it is a significant channel, and that it's the third channel, this AI recommendation shelf, and that they need to be optimized. So, in terms of the future, I also think there's even a bigger exponential opportunity because, right now, in terms of surfacing in the LLMs, right? Traditionally, and when I say traditionally, so obviously
It's
not
like
even like
6 months.
yeah, 6 months or whatever. Like Amazon is blocking, LLMs from searching their platforms because
Yeah.
that's how we own it. But like we're starting to hear like, oh, Amazon is surfacing more in the LLMs, like products and stuff like that, right? And so it's not going to take a genius to say, hey, Amazon is ultimately, there's LLM components to everything and it's AI. And so how you structure listings there is literally how you would structure them for the LLMs, right? If you structure it in the right way, as and when that signaling to ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini is open more and more, you're already structured in the right way to get more surfacing in the LLMs outside of Amazon, right? So that is the underlying big opportunity that still is going to evolve, I'm sure, as we go. And certainly, the structure works for how you would put it into. In fact, because we have an MCP connection inside of our product Helix, like you can literally take the structured listings that you do on Amazon and then restructure them for Walmart or for your Shopify sites or whatever. And the basic, blocking and tackling of the pipes of the structure is there, right? So it works across those platforms, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, that makes total sense. I had a question about like how does this help your visibility with other AIs, but that makes total sense. I like the way LLM might structure some data is probably very similar to how another LLM is doing it. And I see that with the various models I use. They'll come up with some unique things, but often it's generally pretty similar. So that makes sense. So a little bit left field question. I'm not sure if this is true, but I mean, it says AI is relatively new. Is there certain types of products on Amazon that if you are in that category, you should be especially focused on the AI elements, or is it pretty much across the entire board now on Amazon?
It's just across the board. Like from our general tracking, like, the ROI that you get on once you've optimized the listing is literally immediate, right? And it starts to grow. And we're seeing it across the board. And, Amazon is raising their hand and saying, hey, like we're starting to play more in the space with these structured new titles and everything else. Like they need better structured data for AI and everything else. And so it's anything historically with Amazon, if you play their game, and you align with what they want, you do better on Amazon, right? And this is a big play to saying, hey, they need to make sure that they're giving the best quality experience to their customers, and they need things optimized in the right way so that they can surface you, right? Yeah.
You just said something that I find very interesting where you get this lift right away. So if you get your score up from 50 to say, I don't know, 100 or 85, is the lift like pretty dramatic? Like you see it like right away within 24 hours? Or what's the timeline from implementing these tactics to seeing that visibility in the AI?
Yeah, we start to see incremental lift from 24 hours, 48 hours
Wow,
later.
that's quick.
It changes across the board, but overall, the things that we measure is sessions. Like, are you increasing your sessions? Is your conversion rate going up because you've optimized for AI readability and human conversion, and you're getting the relevant,
So
the
you
relevant
could
answer?
like go through your exit readiness score, or I keep saying exit readiness. It's been in my head. The M&A, AI. Sorry, everyone. John Sully's business with me. Just joking. The AI readiness score you have. You could go through it and implement everything. How long does that take usually to implement everything you recommend? I know it's changed based on your score, but is this like 2 weeks worth of work? Is it less than that? What's the average timeline?
I mean, the AI readiness score, it's free and it generates, you just add your ACE and it'll generate
No. I mean
the,
like doing the tactics that it's telling you to do.
right. To answer that question, the AI readiness actually gives you the score, but it actually gives you things that you can improve on your listing manually, right? And that'll take you as long as it takes you, and you can just follow that. Our Helix product, that's our full kind of AI experience that you go through. And it's actually a 3-step process. We start with your brand and we analyze your full brand, and we help you basically create a brand strategy document, which helps with your tonality and, just really understanding your brand at a high level and teaching the AI like what's important about your brand. And then you move on to your product summary level, which is really understanding, it helps you with your positioning of your product. So it looks at what's your unique selling proposition of your product, what are all your competitors focused on, how are you unique versus your competitors, and then it also analyzes the niche and understands what do customers want. So like that's the mecca of marketing, is like if we can use AI to help you position your product better, that helps with certainly recommendation from AI, but with connection with customers is the critical piece. So that's the second piece. And then the third piece is actually the transformation of the content, which is writing the actual listing based on your brand and your product summary level, right? And the learnings from that, it will then write your full listing with the technical mapping and the buy Q&A side for the content. And then we also give you a full image rewrite, which is, the concept is customers buy with their eyes. And certainly in the AI world, they're looking at your image stack right at the end to just validate what they're going to buy, right? And so we help you to structure your images in a better way and your EBC content on Amazon. So that's kind of the full solution. And from beginning to end, it'll probably take you, if you sat down and ran it, it'll take you anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes to run that full hero ASIN transition, right? So it's a very quick process that you can go through. Yeah.
I mean, this is amazing. Like every FBA seller should be doing this because, like, I mean, we were talking
That's
a
what I'm
little
telling
bit.
them.
Yeah, go to Zonguru right now. Use your coupon code Greg. Just kidding. I don't have a coupon code. We do have a link for it though. But yeah, like this is amazing. I think a lot of people they think just pure profit. But we were talking about this, or at least I was offline. Like if you increase your profit by like 10%, say you're $1 million FBA business, you increase your profit by 10%. that could easily be an extra $500,000 in your valuation, because it's not one for one. Because as you go bigger in your profit and you're more secure, more stable, and there's more ways you're making money, like all that plays into your valuation. So that could like literally like less than a month's worth of work could greatly increase your valuation once you have that profit stabilized. Which for all my business buyers out there, if most of these FBA people are scoring 50, that's a huge opportunity. If you come buy an FBA business from me, go through Zonguru, increase your valuation, then come back to me in 24 months. We actually had a guy, I think it happened last time we were talking. I don't know if he had used any AI stuff, but he bought a $180,000 FBA business from us, and like 22 months later came back and started selling it with us, or over $1 million. So like the growth potential of doing something like what you're talking about is absolutely amazing from just an acquisition strategy, since it sounds like most sellers are far behind. Do you think that's true? Like a lot of sellers are like really far behind this whole trend?
Yes, I think we see, when we're scoring these listings, a lot of them need optimization, right? There has been a step in the last while because of this requirements and deadline given on the title change. And frankly, that was one of our pushes, is like, if you're just optimizing your title for AI, you're missing the point, right? Because you have a whole piece of content there. But, if I talk in terms of theory and reality, yeah, this helps massively because one, if you follow the concept of structured listing engineering, you now have this baseline that is now we're using the latest and greatest tools around AI to make sure that the human connection conversion is highest. And obviously the AI readability, discoverability is highest. So your baseline listing is fully optimized. That's certainly going to help you with the organic recommendation that's coming out of Alexa for shopping, which is obviously more profitable because you're not paying ads. It's not pay to play. And certainly even with the ads that are currently within Alexa, the data coming out is that it's still the recommendation that you need, which is not paid for, right? So that's going to help you on the profit side. But then all the ads that you're running or anything else that you're doing, if you're going to a listing that's naturally better for the human connection conversion and everything else, it's going to help on that front as well. So it raises the whole boat of your revenue and profit for sure. And then you have the third piece, which a lot of agencies are obviously, very interested in as well, but brands are certainly, is that now you're just doing it in a much more efficient way. Like, what's the number one thing across a brand or an agency that is all consuming and, most inefficient? It's content creation, right? And what's the number one thing that actually gives you the best bang for your buck? It's content creation, so, and this is what like agencies struggle with the most. And that's the one thing that no one wants to pay for. So it's like this fascinating world where like this solves it. It gives you better gross margin percentage because it's more efficient in getting the content out. It's cheaper. And then obviously on the top end, it gives you more revenue and profit, right? So, that's me standing on my small, whatever, block here. But yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about the agency life with you, maybe after this other question, but you're probably like the most connected person I know when it comes to AI, how it's affecting the Amazon ecosystem specifically. Outside of product discovery, are FBA entrepreneurs doing anything else with AI that you think is like super fascinating and super helpful for their growth?
Yes. I mean, I think gone are the days of just being a seller on Amazon, right? And like, oh, you can just optimize your content and, do a little bit of PPC and that's great, right? Like, we're all Amazon traditional entrepreneurs are going omni-channel, right? And so it's all of the above. It's like, hey, how are we using AI to create cold outreach emails? How are we using it to do help with marketing? How are we using it on our customer support? Like, it's truly across the board, right? So every seller that we're speaking to now, and I think Amazon sellers are one of the most adaptive type of entrepreneurs out there. They're fully immersed in AI and using Claude and everything else, right? And only some of them are realizing now that actually, doing things through Claude and MCP and the token cost is actually much higher than if they just went with the software, right? And with worse results. So like, I think that's the evolution that's starting to happen now, is like seeing the value of SaaS and even technical, solutions around being the brain of what it is, right? And then how you execute on it, right? So yeah, I think, it's all of the above for sellers today. Like, they're very connected on the AI side and using it out beyond Amazon, right? How do I get traffic from other sources to Amazon, to my listings? How do I use AI in a better way for, my affiliate marketing, my, anything across the board? So it's pretty deep.
Yeah, it's bleeding into everything. I was on one of our management calls. I was talking to our head of engineering, and I'm, as I mentioned to you, but for the audience context, I'm building this whole new cold outbound infrastructure. And I'm in Supabase. I'm now in Visual Design Studio with Cloud Code and Terminal, all the fun stuff, right? And in our engineering year, I wrote like this new blog post with AI because we're switching everything. It's not rolled out yet, but we're eventually switching everything from monthly multiples to annual multiples, which is more like industry standard. And the CEO, he's like, man, my engineers are writing blog posts and my marketers writing code. What's going on? This is a very like tipsy turvy world that's happening at the moment with all developments that are happening. But I want to take some of the last bit of this episode to talk about Zonger, like the agency life. How are things going, man? Like it seems like things are going good. Are you? Because I have a lot of agency owners in this ecosystem right now, and we were talking a bit about how like AI is becoming this thing that's making every service business more attractive. So talk to me a bit about how AI is affecting you as an agency owner.
Well, yeah. So Zonguru, to that point, like at a high level, Zonguru is a technology company, and we've produced, our big focus is around this content optimization for Amazon and this Helix product that we've developed, right? But in our model ourselves, we have the AI readiness report, which is obviously a free scoring system, but it's a funnel for us that comes in. They then learn and test the Helix product, which they get good results out of. And then we certainly have the final opportunity to say, hey, as a business owner, do you want a done for you service where there's kind of like a managed service light aspect? And then we have a full upsell to the full managed service piece of business, which is called Tillstar, which is an agency subdivision of Zongu, right? So that's the concept of what we have. And as we do better with the SaaS product and we deliver more value, they get to know us and then they can move up the chain and use the managed service. Now, the concept of that managed service business is not only, it's obviously clearly a good revenue stream for us and we build that, but we're careful about how we build that. But the main reason behind that is actually as an incubator to understand the difference between brand problems for brand owners and agency problems that we need to solve with our SaaS technology platform, right? Because a lot of agencies are using, as I said, they're using Helix and seeing huge results because for an agency, it's even a stronger value proposition
Oh yeah,
because
they're doing it every day across the
it's
brand.
exactly what I said. It's like if you can improve your gross margin and you have less people doing more with content creation, that's one of the most inefficient things. And frankly, a lot of creative people get it wrong. But now we have AI that leads the strategy, which is great, right? So if you can solve that, have better gross margin for your agency, have better results with your content so that your clients actually sell more revenue and then you get paid on a performance basis with your clients. So you're actually making more revenue for your agency. It's a massive fit, right? So we have the agency side on our side, but it's more of an incubator to help drive our products so that we're solving products in the right way for our agency clients. We're not there certainly to compete with them, right? So
Yeah.
that's kind of like how we fit into the picture. So we're coming from a like-minded position for our agency partners and saying, hey, yeah, we get all the problems you have because we have a small agency internally that obviously, helps drive our product roadmap for Helix and content creation, and they get it, right? So that's how it all fits together.
You touched on a thing I really want to get your opinion on. I'm sure you've seen this stuff too on LinkedIn, Instagram, or whatever, where people are like, the agency model's dying. And you have a lot of agency customers as well using Helix, as you mentioned, not just product owners. So, do you think in the age of AI, agencies are going more by the wayside, or do you think this is kind of like ushering in a golden era for agencies? Because the one thing to think about in this is like, yeah, it makes you way, way faster, but that does also make you less valuable now. Like if that goes everywhere, right? So I'm curious on your thoughts. Is this a golden era or is this like you just need to watch out?
Yeah, it's a super crazy world right now across the board, agencies and SaaS, right? Like some moments like everyone's like, oh, well, SaaS is dying. And then now you have like SWAS, or a software with a service, or like agencies are the new SaaS, right? And so it's kind of evolving as we try and understand what is the value proposition of technology and services in this new world of AI, right? And my personal opinion and what I'm seeing right now is that agencies are finally getting their moments in the sun from a valuation perspective because traditionally agencies have always been, you know, probably the strongest strategic people in an industry, right? Like they value understanding strategy. They're incredibly smart people that are running these agencies. And if they're an agency worth their salt, they have a very strong strategic component. But the problem around the valuations has always been like, oh, well, you're a service business and you've got these clients that come and go and there's no SaaS model or whatever. But like, actually what it was is the gross margin percentage of agencies was too little, right, to really add the valuation. But now with technology, you now have this incredibly strong subject matter expert in an agency that's extremely strong and strategic in that industry and niche with an incredible gross margin of 70% plus. Now the valuation that you get for an agency is much higher, right? So what we're seeing evolve in that space is all of a sudden there's private equity money coming, there's investor money coming saying, hey, well, you guys are 2 million EBITDA business at 70% gross margin. Holy shit. And you've got this strong strategy and you've got this core culture and value and it's amazing. Let's just roll you up and you buy a couple more agencies, roll them in, get them up to 70% yourself. Hey, bring in a technology partner into your roll up, so that you have the gross margin percentage up there and let's roll you up to 5-10 million EBITDA and sell you to private equity and get you going, right? So like that's like an exciting place of like what's happening with agencies specifically. Like there's these big roll-ups happening. Padian is like probably the fastest global agency rolling up with a bunch of technologies and softwares right now because they see that, right? And they want to get to their exit point at some point, I'm assuming. So yeah, I actually see AI, if it's used correctly, it's going to give agencies more of their moment in the sun because it allows them to see the value of their strategy and subject matter expertise with good gross margin percentage, which is an epic business to buy, right?
Yeah, I am in 100% agreement with you. I think the two safest business models right now that are digitally native, so like e-commerce, SaaS, whatever, right? I think the two strongest ones are the most resilient is probably going to be e-commerce, and that includes Amazon FBA and agencies because you are able to unlock stuff that just the bottle constraints of labor like was impossible for you to really grow. Like, and when we were talking about increasing margins, this doesn't necessarily mean like where you get rid of labor. Often it means like you're able to promote that labor into doing way more strategic, higher valuable stuff, right? So I think agencies are going to continue to get their moment in the sun. And I got into a debate with a guy on LinkedIn. He's like, "Oh, agencies are all dead." Like, okay, man, like there's no Fortune 500 CEO that's going into a mid-journey Discord to make their Facebook ad creative, right? Like someone that they hired are going to be doing that, and it's probably going to be an agency, right? So I'm with you on that. Well,
And
we're
I think
getting
the
yeah,
agencies that are going to win are the ones that adapt fastest as a culture internally to the new AI methodology, right? And what I mean by that is like you've actually got to change the way that you measure performance across your employee base, right? Like, in extreme world is going to move to, okay, well, great, maybe you've created some good, valuable things within the agency and processes, but actually you've been pretty inefficient on your token cost. And so like you're actually costing us a lot of money for what you're doing. So like, how do
that
we
is
measure
probably that you're hitting too
measure
close to home right now, John. What are you doing?
Dude, Claude even comes to me and is like, dude, you can actually just go in there and fix it yourself. And I'm not going to spend like $10 on tokens. So why don't you just go fix it yourself? I'm like, oh, so Claude, you're telling me I'm being inefficient right now. Okay, fine. So I think it's like, actually, you're spending a lot of money. You shouldn't be doing it this way. Like, actually, just do the manual thing, go in there and click the button yourself, you dumbass. So, that's the extreme of where it's going to go. Is like, you've got to build in this integrated AI culture into your business because the performance measurements of like, what have you done for me lately is going to change, right? And
Yeah,
the agencies that move in that model quicker, are going to be the most successful at the end of the day.
I agree, man. I think strategists and people who are good with tactics is just going to amplify their ability with AI, and performance will change. And like even in our own Slack, I'm seeing some funny changes where like a lot of our new engineer hires they respond to everything with AI. So they have like AI that reads the context and then it replies back based on what they're saying. Like this is a little bit too much because now like these Slack threads are getting huge, but it's interesting times for sure. Well, to wrap up the interview, my man, we already did your funniest moment last time you were on. So maybe what we should say is like, for your quick question, what would be your number one thing for an FBA seller to focus on this year if they want to have the best year of their business?
I mean, the easy answer is saying optimize your listing using Helix.
Go to Zonguru with the
Yeah,
EF link.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's adopting AI, in the right way, but evolving your business omni-channel, right? I think there's a lot of opportunity on Amazon, but with technologies now, your ability to do more with less is huge. And I think it's critical, right? So it's always that idea of like focus versus breadth. And I think breadth is something you can tackle, at least from a marketing visibility perspective, with AI. And so, moving your strategies and your marketing just beyond Amazon, I think is one of the biggest things you can do for your business. Once you have your baseline listing structured in the right way on Amazon and you've crossed all your T's. So
You're right. You're preaching to the choir on that one, man. I've always been a massive fan of omnichannel. Like, I always tell people, don't allow one tech giant to like own your entire business. Like outside of FBA, I see all the time with like my SEO friends, with their tech giants Google, or my Meta ad friends. Obviously, Meta is their tech giant. Like, you got to spread your wings a little bit, use a little bit of each tech giant at scale. And I think AI allows people to do it because it allows them to go so much faster. Now they can get that breadth. So I agree with you. For anyone that wants to connect with you, John, I mean, obviously they can check out the links in the podcast links below. But if anyone wants to connect with you, where should we send them?
Yeah, we have a newsletter and a blog, which is updated weekly. I think that's one of the best places to kind of hear what's happening in the space. Outside of that, my LinkedIn profile, we update that 3 or 4 times a week, depending on, what's newsworthy and opinions out there. So, I certainly post on there a lot. So you can check out my LinkedIn. It's John Tilley, I think is the handle, Jon, no H, Tilley. And then, outside of that, the 2 links that we have, zonguru.link/Cosmo-EF for the free readiness report. That's a place to start and just like to check, how does my listings actually score for AI? And then if you want to check out the Helix product, it's zonguru.link/Helix-EF for Empire Flippers. And you can, join there, run brands and products for free, by the way. It's only when you do the transformations that you pay on a credit basis right now. So there's a lot that can be done there. And then you can connect to MCP, and there's a whole other world there for those, sophisticated entrepreneurs. So check it out.
Yeah, well, any of my FBA friends or FBA agencies listening to this, I highly recommend you go check it out. I've seen John's work back in the Rufus days, and it was really good. I mean, if you're able to get that kind of lift, like, it's such a huge valuation increase. Whether you're the agency owner or the brand owner, right? Either way, it's going to do some good things for your business. So, John, thanks so much for coming on, man. Always a pleasure. I'm looking forward to episode number 3 at some undetermined date.
Let's see. We've got V2 coming out, so there'll be some big updates there. So it's pretty cool.
Right. We'll have to get you back on, man.
Good luck out there, everyone, and I hope to connect.
Talk soon, John.
There you have it. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it got you inspired at all the different things that are happening in this industry. And of course, if you just want to buy a highly profitable business, you can always go to empireflippers.com/marketplace, or maybe you want to make an exit of your highly profitable business, and you could go to empireflippers.com/sell your site. I've been your host, Greg. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you leave a review, give us a like, a follow, share it across social media. Talk to you all soon. See you on the next episode.